everyone, my name is Daniela, and on this channel we do cooking, crafting, cocktails, all sorts of good stuff. As you can see, Steven and I are enjoying a delicious dinner tonight. It is a chicken pot pie soup, so if you'd like to see how I made this, keep on watching. Hello, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I am trying out a chicken pot pie soup recipe. I will link it down for you below, but I thought I would walk you guys through the process. So got my pot here. We did go to find rotisserie chicken at the store, and unfortunately they were already sold out, so we are cooking and shredding our own chicken. So I've got some chicken breasts that I've removed the fat from. I'm really weird about fat. I don't like the texture of it. I'm going to put these into my pot here, and I probably won't need all of this. What should I do with the little bits, huh? You want to cook these up for like a sandwich or something?
Yeah. Okay,
so I'll leave those. So I got two like thin chicken breasts in there. And I'm gonna add some seasonings. I've got some garlic and herb seasoning here, which apparently isn't open. Super kitchen sanitary to open things with your mouth. And some adobo, which is like my favorite chicken seasoning. I don't know why. You don't have to add this. You can add whatever seasoning you prefer. These are just the ones that were calling to me. And some seasoned salt.
Not to be mistaken with adobe.
Yeah, not to be mistaken with adobe. And some black pepper here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up just above where the chicken is, about an inch, and then I'm going to let that kind of simmer until it's ready to shred. So I'm going to add some water to this. Should I add some of these carrots before you do?
Yeah, I think it's just
Steven is peeling some carrots. I'm going to add this because, one, it'll add a little flavor to it, but two, then once this is done, like boiling and shredding or whatever, this will become chicken broth. So it'll have a multi-purpose. And so the carrots will help flavor that. No, I did a handful, it's fine.
I can also shove some fresh from one of the carrots, because you don't want the skins.
No, this is fine. No, skins are fine, because we're not going to eat them. Okay, can you turn the water off for a second?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my burner onto medium heat. I don't want it to go too high, and I will even turn it down once it gets to a certain point. But I'm going to let this kind of simmer until it feels ready to shred. So this is going to be our first step. Like I said, you could totally use a rotisserie chicken from the store. They were sold out when we went. And in the meantime, we will start chopping up some veggies. So it looks like we will need 2 carrots sliced and 2 celery sticks sliced. So we're going to work on that. What we've got here. And you will need 8 ounces of white or brown mushrooms sliced. We just got the pre-sliced kind to save us a little bit of time. We're tired. It's like 7:20. So it's going to be kind of a late dinner, but yeah. So you will need 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms, which is perfect for this package, 2 thinly sliced carrots and celery. So that's what we'll be doing here. So I've got my leftover chicken breast just frying up here for maybe salad or dinner a different day. And then I've got these are just like tiny, it was sliced funny, okay? And then as you can see here, it's finally starting to like bubble up a little bit and simmer. These are thinly sliced. so it probably won't need as much as a regular one, which might take about 15 minutes or so. These probably will be done a lot sooner, and then I will show you when we shred them. So the chicken, I just checked it. You can cut it, or I like lifted mine up with and just cut it with a kitchen shears, but you could obviously do it with a knife. I'm gonna take 2 forks, and I'm gonna put them on a cutting board. To shred them. I'm gonna set this aside because I'll drain it later to keep the chicken broth, so I can use it for a soup or a dish a different day. Or you can also like flavor your pasta with that, so that there's really good flavor in there. And all you're gonna do here is you're just gonna hold your chicken with one fork and shred it with the other. You're just gonna kind of claw apart, almost like you're an animal, ripping apart their prey. But it's the chicken. It's up to you if you want it like thinner chunks or thicker chunks. I like a nice variety of some really thin pieces and some thicker. You hear a crazy noise. It's Steven trying to fix the, what is it called? The garbage disposal. We put too many things in there, I guess.
That was a hefty load. Celery.
Now I've got one of these like mesh strainers or sieves, and I've got it over my big liquid measuring cup, and what I'm going to do is just pour this, or you don't have to have this measuring cup, by the way. You could obviously use like a bowl or something else, as long as it's somewhat heat resistant. And I'm just going to pour this in there to get out all the extra stuff we don't need, and then I'll let that sit and cool. And once it's cooled off enough to be able to withstand a closed container, I will pour it into a mason jar and keep it in the fridge or the freezer. What I did learn is don't put it in the freezer right away because the mason jar will crack, but you can let it sit in the fridge for a little while, and you've got some homemade chicken broth. Okay, so I'm angled all funny. I'm just trying to fit in the view. So I read the recipe again, and it has 10 servings in it, which is a lot for 2 people. So what we're going to do is actually cut it in half. So if you're also cutting in half, you would have done the 1 carrot and 1 celery stick. I'll just put half of that in there, which is totally fine. But anyways, I will still have that recipe link below. Just know that we are now making half of it, just so that we have enough for ourselves and leftovers, but like, we don't need a whole piece. So I'm putting 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter into a soup pot or a large pot, and I'm just going to let that heat up over low heat while I get some onions chopped up, because I will need onions chopped for this as well. So I should have used a bigger cutting board and cut it all in there, but oh well. So I'm going to chop about half a cup, 3/4 of a cup worth of onion. It asks for 1 cup, half would be half a cup, but I really like onions, so I'll probably do a little more than that. So I've got my butter melting in here. It's almost all melted. I turned it up to like a little over medium high-ish. That's what the recipe called for. And now I have to add in my celery, carrots, and onion. So I'm adding in my onion. I chopped up about 3/4 of a medium or yellow onion. So that's in there. And now I'm going to add half of this, because remember we decided to cut the recipe in half. I'm just kind of estimating what that looks like. That looks pretty good. A little over half, who cares? I'm going to mix that around. Of course, you could stir it up with a wooden spoon, which I'll grab in a second. While that's doing that, I do need to chop up some garlic. Asked for 3 cloves, I'm gonna do 2 cloves since we're cutting it a little bit, but I find that 1 clove of garlic is often not enough in most recipes. I just feel like it doesn't give the full flavor. That's why I'm doing 2 instead of like 1.5, which would be the typical split amount. And those peeled really easily, which is nice. I'm at a kind of a funky angle here cutting, but I wanted you guys to be able to see this and have close access as well to the pot. So the veggies that are in there now, the celery, carrot, and onion are supposed to be in there about 5 to 7 minutes. I'll probably check it 3 to 5 and also stir it around a few times. And then after those 5 to 7 minutes is when we add in the mushroom and the garlic. Okay, so let's look here. I've got my wooden spoon. Mix it around. And then in a few minutes we'll add the rest of our ingredients. Well, not the rest, but some of them. Okay, it's been a few minutes. My veggies are getting nice and soft, which is what you're looking for. You can tell because the celery will get a little bit brighter and the onions will get a little more translucent. So I'm adding half of my mushrooms. And then I'm adding my garlic. Oops, I did this the wrong way. Stir that up. It smells so good in here right now. Let's check what is next. Okay, so I'll saute those for another few minutes until those are softened, and then add on a little bit of flour to thicken it up. It's been another few minutes. I'm going to start sprinkling in a little flour and mixing that in, and this is just going to help thicken it. The mushrooms, as they soften, will get a little darker and they will shrivel up a little. Adding the flour at this portion will help coat the vegetables so that when you add your liquids, it will thicken up the soup as a whole. So I asked for 1/3 of a cup, so I did half of 1/3 cup because I don't own anything smaller than that or a 1/4. So put that in there. Stir until golden, and then we'll add 3 cups of broth or stock and some sliced potatoes. So we're going to start working on that. Stephen, will you work on the potatoes? You will need half a pound. I don't know how much that's going to be. So it asks for 6 cups. I'm going to add about 3 cups. This is some veggie broth I made with a different recipe, or a different thing I made recently, I guess. My liquid measuring cup is being used, so I'm just going to do this in the meantime. This is not a professional way to do it, but since the other one's being used, this is how we will do it. This is a half cup. So that's 1 cup, 2 cups, about. And we'll add 1 more. And while I'm doing this, Stephen's going to chop up the potatoes, and we will add those next. About 3 cups there. Stephen's just finishing up slicing the potatoes here, which we are then going to add to our mix. I am questioning, 3 cups seems like very little, right? I might end up adding more liquid. It feels like it's not going to be enough with potatoes and chicken in it, but I guess we'll see. So you're supposed to add the potatoes, some salt and pepper, so I'm going to add some salt. And next we are gonna throw our potatoes in there. Yeah. Now we're gonna bring this to a boil, I believe. Just double checking here. Bring to a boil, then reduce heat to a simmer. Partially cover 12 to 15 minutes or until potatoes are tender. Okay, so yep, I will bring this to a boil. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit so that it boils, and then I'll turn it back down for the simmering portion. I think once I add chicken, right, and a little bit of cream, it just feels like it's not going to be enough liquid. I'm going to add a splash more of some broth. And then we might be okay. So now this is the chicken broth we made earlier, and I just mixed it with my leftover veggie broth, putting about half in there, so about another cup. In the meantime, I'll show you guys my little AeroGarden. It's very bright. But I've got parsley growing, so I'm going to use some of this parsley and into my soup when it calls for it. The parsley's here. I've got mint. Mint isn't growing as well as I'd hoped. I've got some Genovese basil, some Thai basil, parsley in the middle, and some dill that's been going crazy. We have turned it, this is kind of the end of the dill. It was going crazy for a long time. So anyways, this is my AeroGarden. Got it off Amazon or Walmart? No, I got it at Walmart, but they do have them on Amazon. I'll link one down below for you if you're interested, but it's really cool. And we don't get enough sunlight in our house, so we've got this going, and it really didn't increase our energy bill by more than just a couple bucks. So we really love it, and now we get fresh herbs. So I will be using some of that parsley and chopping it up for the soup. Okay, I'm gonna chop up my parsley here. Recipe calls for 1/4 cup, so I just need half of that, which isn't very much. And honestly, with parsley, I like to eyeball it and just see, like, is there enough green specks throughout the recipe. If you've noticed, I have changed some things here and there throughout the recipe. This is kind of how I function whenever I make something. It's actually interesting, often when I follow a recipe, I don't make it to, like, my own personal likings. I end up not liking it very much, so I've learned to just kind of follow my gut and my taste and add and subtract and whatever else I need to do along the way. So that's kind of what I've been doing here as well, is just kind of feeling it out and also being aware of my own taste and preferences and what I think will go well, and then adjusting as needed. So I don't need this yet, but it's ready for later. Our soup is boiling. I'm going to put it down to a lower heat and then partially cover it so that it can simmer. Okay, so I'm going to test if the potatoes are softened, which you just do with a fork. And you just see if it can easily glide through. And it can, which is great. It's been simmering for about the time it said, 15-20 minutes or so. And now I have to add some frozen peas and corn. We're adding in 1/2 cup of each, since we're cutting the recipe. It's at 112 times. So I need 1/2 cup of peas. Oh my goodness. I absolutely love peas. Okay, 1/2 cup of peas. Plus a sprinkle. Who cares? And again, that's why I was like, that doesn't seem like enough water, because we're adding on all this goodness. Not to mention we haven't added the chicken yet. And then 1/2 cup of frozen corn. That's a sprinkle, right? Who doesn't love little corn? Okay, mix that around. And now I believe I have to add the cream. Yep, the heavy whipping cream and the parsley. So I need, let's see, 1/2 cup is 1/4 cup of whipping cream. Whipping cream, heavy cream, whatever you want to call it. obviously the part that's going to make it creamy. So I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of that. Maybe since I add more liquid, I'll add a splash more. Every last drop counts, right? Like that. And then I'm adding in my parsley, and then it says to just bring it back to a simmer and let it simmer for about 5 minutes, I believe. I will double check in just a second here. But this is looking all sorts of creamy and delicious. Let's see what the recipe says for next. Okay, I've added all that good stuff. Oh, and I add the shredded chicken now. Okay, I will add the shredded chicken. All that goodness is going in there. And stir this around again. And I'm going to turn my heat back up so that it gets to a simmer. It's going to be obviously very cooled down now that we added some frozen things, so I'm going to turn it back up to medium heat. Just for a little bit here. And this is looking absolutely delicious. As a last minute addition, I've decided to add a little bit of dried thyme. It just feels like it's really going to help kick off that delicious traditional chicken pot pie flavor. So I am adding some dried thyme in here, which is in like a traditional, like I said, traditional pot pie as opposed to the soup. So I know it looks like I'm adding a lot. It's coming out very slowly. So anyways, I'm adding that as well. And then I'm gonna let this hang out and just become deliciousness. I have got some biscuits in the oven, just your typical Pillsbury biscuits. And then we will serve this up and have ourselves a delicious chicken pot pie soup. All right, here is the final result. I think it looks absolutely delicious, and we are about to take our first sip. Okay, we've got our biscuits on the side here. Again, just canned Pillsbury, you know, the good stuff. And our soup, and we are ready to take our first bite. Mmm.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It's creamy. It's got all these different veggies and deliciousness in it. I think also if you wanted a spicier version, you could add some green chili in there. You could have added some poblano. But I think it's delicious. And again, you could totally use a rotisserie chicken, which is already delicious and like succulent and savory. But this is hitting the spot for sure. I can't even imagine what this is going to be like with our little biscuit. Then it'll really complete the pot pie experience. I think it's amazing. Like I said, I'll leave the link down below. Let me know if you try this recipe out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!